Hello and welcome to Joie de Vivre. I was thinking about making this video specifically directed to people who have been victims of layoffs. But I don't actually mean the people who are actually laid off because they're going through something, and I've certainly worked with a lot of people who have been laid off from their jobs and have to deal with all of the emotions that come along with that, all the feelings, and finding the motivation to, find something new. But I'm actually talking about the victims of layoffs that are the people who are left behind. The thing is that you may say, well, why are they victims? They weren't laid off, but there are side effects for those people as well. And I don't know if you're one of those, or if you've been one of those, or if you're just sitting at your job feeling a little nervous about what's going on in the economy in general. Because it's nerve-wracking. You turn on the news, banks are not doing well, or medium-sized banks are having some problems in the current economy, which of course sets off people's fears about the economy in general, their jobs, job security, etc. Especially if if you're at a job where people were recently laid off, a lot of times that leaves you with a sense of anxiety about your own fate. I mean, if there was one round of layoffs, there could be another round of layoffs, right? It's like, is my job secure? There's also sometimes some survivor guilt that comes along with that. I mean, it's like oftentimes you lose friends. Friends were laid off, people that you've worked with maybe for years or just had a really close, positive working relationship with. The next day they're gone, and there's a void, and there's guilt, there's survivor's guilt. Why wasn't I let go? And there's also loss. There's loss of that relationship or those relationships. So there's a lot that workers go through after layoffs, personally, internally, which can create a sense of low morale or lower morale, perhaps. And the other thing is, of course, that, well, someone has to absorb all the work that the other people were doing. And, maybe some roles are cut because they're just not needed. But oftentimes there's extra workload that gets dumped on the people who are left behind. And they have to figure out, what the other people were doing suddenly, because, layoffs usually happen in an instant and people are gone. They have to figure out what's happening with certain projects. They have to clean up messes. There are so many other stressors that get piled on. So, one thing is just a simple acknowledgement that I don't know that we talk about the people who are left behind so much, or talk to you, because it's more about, the focus is on the people who lost their jobs, and that is its own set of issues, right? But for the people who are left behind, again, often there are many, many feelings that come up for those people as well. And whether that's you or someone, maybe a loved one or a friend, or if it's something that you've experienced in the past, I just want to, acknowledge this is a real complicated situation that brings along with it a lot of complicated feelings. And again, a lot of times people in this situation, they feel like they need to be grateful to have a job. That's one thing. It's like, well, at least I didn't lose my job. But oftentimes, again, there can be a lowering of morale. And then the other thing I want to say is, and this is sort of the part of the conversation that I'm really wanting to stress more of the time. And it might seem out of place with this topic that I'm talking about, but there's a great quote from the poet Rumi: "Live your life as if it's rigged in your favor." Now, I may be botching the quote. I may be paraphrasing it, but I believe that's the point of it. Live life as if it's rigged in your favor. Now, when we're going through something difficult, whether it's you're a victim of a layoff, or you're one of the people who's left at the company to pick up the pieces, or if there's a lot of economic uncertainty in the environment, which is kicking up some anxiety about, is my job secure at all? Am I going to be next? In any of these situations, it can be very easy to really start living in a place of generalized anxiety, of just feeling like you can't relax or just feeling like you're on edge a lot and just, maybe compulsively checking the news to see what's going on or just finding your mind going to these more anxious, worst case scenarios of economic collapse or homelessness or whatever your worst case scenario is. So if we go back to this quote, this Rumi quote, you might be asking yourself, well, how how can I be living my life as if it's rigged in my favor at this point? Maybe again, there's the gratitude about having the job. Maybe you can go to that place and say, okay, maybe I'm going to try to feel grateful for the job that I have. But I think the real opportunity is to begin to start exploring this idea of life being rigged in your favor. What would that look like? It doesn't mean that everything always goes your way, literally, meaning you keep your job or you don't get extra work or whatever that looks like, that it's always green lights, because that's not what it means. But what it means is that every experience that you have is valuable and there's an opportunity for a lesson in it. Now, for the people who have been laid off, oftentimes it's an opportunity to begin again. And many times after, people feel the grief and the loss of, and, deal with the sense of failure or whatever it is they're dealing with, oftentimes they begin to be excited again about the new possibilities. For the people who are left behind, it is an opportunity for an exploration. Is this, am I doing what I want to be doing with my career? Do I want to be looking somewhere else? And even if I need to stay here now because, let's say, the economic environment isn't really inviting in terms of finding a new work, finding a new career, how can I learn from this situation? And what opportunities might be here for me to explore? Now, you might say to me, well, I'm overburdened right now. I can't think about that. I'm taking on 3 other people's jobs right now. I can't think about what opportunities are here. Even in bad experiences, there are opportunities, oftentimes the greatest opportunities. If we can flip the narrative from crisis or anxiety to opportunity and start opening our sights to see what might be out there for us, out there or right here. Sometimes there's an opportunity for a new role within your company. Perhaps you can take on new leadership responsibilities. Or perhaps you can create new relationships that you had not had before. But really what it's coming down to is that we expand our vision out of the narrow, which it's very easy to get caught in the narrow, which is stress, fear, scarcity, and loss. Again, it's important to process those feelings. It's important to feel them when they come up, but also recognize that there's something else right beyond them. But just start to ask yourself this question. Again, how might life be rigged in my favor in this situation? Where might I find new opportunities? How might I open my vision to see what possibilities might be laying right before me? The fact of the matter is that no situation is inherently bad or good. All situations have the possibility to be anything, anything you can imagine them to be. Something that you might consider a tragedy might actually have some real beauty or, again, opportunity or grace in it. Also, time for things to play out is important, and asking this question perhaps on a daily basis over time can yield to some really interesting exploration. So I'll finish with just one thing, which is, in these times of uncertainty, it is very easy to live in a place of fear. But what's more important is to bring ourselves back to the present and remember we are okay right now. You're intelligent. and you're resilient and you're resourceful. And so, whatever the situation asks for, you will rise to the occasion. We all have wisdom and innovation and creativity within us, so that, as they say, necessity is the mother of invention. When quote unquote terrible things happen, we rise to the occasion. So you can rely on that. You don't need to live in fear and uncertainty. Also, just so you know, I'm going to be relaunching my course, the Work-Life Playbook. It's an online course. It's going to be opening in mid-April. I put the link down in the box below, so feel free to check that out. This is the kind of thing that I address in that, but also issues of burnout, issues of chronic stress, and just ways to have a better relationship with your work and your career and your coworkers. Again, check out the link in the box below and feel free to email me with any questions you might have about it. So I will look forward to seeing you next time, and I hope you have a wonderful, stress-free week.